Hello there, welcome. Great to see so many people attending this session. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dallas Kachan of Edsby, VP of Marketing. While most of our company is in Ontario, Canada, for those of you who don't know where Ontario is, I'm personally in British Columbia, Canada. If you're connecting in real time, hello. You're going to be able to ask questions and interact with us here as we go. You can share reactions to what you're hearing and ask questions using the Q&A section of the UI that you will see there here in Microsoft Teams. Note, today's session is being recorded for those whose schedules could not join us live. Also, welcome to you if you're in fact watching the recording of this session. I am joined today by my Edsby colleague, Karen Woods, Director of Sales for Edsby. Hello, Karen.
Hi.
If you are an existing customer in this session, you've met Karen virtually or perhaps face-to-face at one of our various events. She's going to help with questions that come up as we go. Also leading the presentation today is Edsby co-founder John Asbury, who's been our internal product lead for Edsby SignWave, the new product you're about to hear about here today. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Dallas. Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming today. Am I ready to take it away, Dallas?
Well, just one or two quick more notes. If you are intrigued by what you are hearing and seeing today, one of the ways you can engage with us for early access to Edsby SignWave is to fill out the waiting list form that's on a web page on our website. If you go into the product section of the Edsby public website, you'll now find a page for Edsby SignWave, and there's a waiting list button there. Click on that, or you're welcome to speak with your Edsby customer support representative, or of course our very own Karen Woods here as well. We'll be happy to tell you more. That is it for me. For now, as your ringmaster, I'm going to pass things over to John, who's going to do a little setup about what you're about to see here today, and then guide you through an early look at the product as it stands today in Edsby. John?
Thank you, Dallas. Okay, and I'm going to attempt to share my PowerPoint here. There's only a few PowerPoint slides off the top here, so let's just make sure that works. Can you all see that?
Yep.
You can. Super. Okay. So SignWave. Okay. We're very excited about this. I know we get excited about lots of things, but I'm very excited about this. And it's kind of strange because I've been building forms and workflow systems now for longer than most of my kids are old, and some of them are in their 30s. It's kind of been an interesting journey in the last year or so. We were sort of a little bit of history. We were asked to build some forms stuff for a large country client of ours, and that's how it kind of started last year. And we decided rather than building, a specific what I call bespoke application, we wanted to build a custom way of letting customers build their own forms, putting whatever fields and field types on these forms, and so you could deploy and use them as a kind of a Formsy application. And then later in the year, and that was actually quite, good, but it was a very limited audience to that. And the second part of it was that we had customers come to us, a couple of customers actually last December, I think it was, who were saying, field trip permissions, we got a real problem. We really need a system that will do field trip permissions. They tried some of the solutions and they weren't happy with anything they saw out there. So, we engaged with them and we talked with them. And it seems like there's, this has hit a bit of a nerve, I think, as we've been talking to customers. And so we decided to go off and, we think we can build something that will be really great here. And I think we have done. Hopefully, I'll convince you of that today. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a couple of slides first, just to give you a bit of background. We have built a general purpose workflow and form system. But having said that, we're laser focused on the particular one use case, and that use case is field trip permissions. And I'll take you through exactly what I mean by that. It's more than just filling out a form. Okay, so SignWave, that's the name that we're giving this, the journey that matters most, getting every child safely to a field trip and back. It's really important. And there's lots of pain
John,
today.
if I can interrupt for a second, John,
Sure.
Perhaps share the context that in as much as we're about to look carefully at field trips, what's the benefit of doing one use case really deep initially?
Well, I think it's the one. So I chatted with a number of customers, in fact, about this, and they didn't even want to talk about use case number 2. basically. They said this is the most important thing we really need, that we've got a lot of pain. We know that the school boards are covered by insurance providers for field trips, where the kids leave the school premises. And there was a push push from the insurance providers to do something better than what they're currently doing. So we do have number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth use cases down the road, but we wanted to be really good on this one. And we wanted to do it's very important that if you think about it from beginning to end, and I'll show you the process by what I mean by beginning to end, it's more than just filling forms out. So we just want to do a great job on this. We want to be the best in the world field trip permissions workflow system.
Thank you for the context. I think it's useful.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. And jump in anytime, Dallas. Okay, so paper. It turns out that most school boards, from my research, are still using lots of paper. That's things, photocopies, printouts, things stuffed into backpacks, crumpled messes that they get returned to the school, and so forth. Some parents never get their paper approval form. Secondly, a lot of parents are complaining that, oh no, I have to fill out the medical information yet again for my kid, or all the emergency contacts. So there's that, how can we fix that? The approval black hole, well, I gave it to the principal last week, but I think it's lost on his desk under a sea of paper, perhaps. And then handling cash, of course, this is always a struggle. And finally, on trip day, it was described to me by a customer how numerous spreadsheets and things from different places were copied and manually put together, eventually to make a printable version of the roster, and kind of organizing who's on what bus and all of that stuff. And again, it's places where there can be errors made, and we don't want to lose kids at any point in the process here. So there's lots of ways, the things that can be improved. And if you think about signing up for a bank account, it's all done now online and DocuSign and electronic ways of handling these things, and it is a safer way to do it. Okay, so wouldn't it be great if your Edsby platform could handle all of this? And there's some real advantages that we have. Your principals, teachers, parents, students are already on the system. We know who, in fact, we call it the responsibility framework. A parent is responsible for the kid, but when they're in school, the teacher is responsible and the school is responsible. And when they go on a field trip, or, who is responsible for approving the field trip? Maybe it's a dangerous thing and shouldn't be approved, for example. So there's this kind of responsibility thing. And that's an important thing that we have in that social community. No new login required for staff, no new onboarding for everyone, because they're already in the system. Okay, let's talk about the actual laser focus use case that we are focused on. Usually with field trips, there is usually a teacher who, for example, a ski trip, it might be the gym teacher who actually proposes, let's go on a ski trip. And they have to fill out a form, and they have to meet a certain set of requirements on that form. And that form needs to be routed to the right place. Now, that right place depends on what school you're in. So if it needs to be typically the principal of the school that you're in needs to approve of that. And for certain types of field trips, for example, if it's deemed to be high risk, high risk might mean that it's multiple days, or you're going to a different country, or maybe you're doing a very dangerous activity like skydiving or something. Then you need to get additional sign off for perhaps the superintendent. Then we have distribution. So this is basically where the forms get sent out to the parents, and each parent of the kid that is going on the trip, and actually choosing the audience of who is going on the trip, is done. And then, of course, the parents get it. They can sign it or not sign it, reject it. They can fill out additional information if necessary. And then, a little time passes, and it's the time to board the bus. And, you got to check off the kids as they go on the bus to make sure everyone's on. And you need to make sure that the same kids on the way home also board the bus. We don't want to leave anyone at the ski hill. And finally, wouldn't it be great if all of this was, there was a trail that could be watched during the field trip by the office and afterwards? Wouldn't that be really great? Okay. And one thing I'll mention, this is a bit of a thing I'll talk about later, but the concept of a boarding pass. And if you have familiar with the way you board an airplane, there's this boarding pass that you carry around with me, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so what's really great here? So let's just look how it would work. Miss Chen proposes a trip for her grade 4 class, okay? And Edsby already knows all these things. He knows the 28 kids in her class. He knows the students' parents and guardians. It knows the principals, VPs, and superintendents. Knows any medical conditions and allergies the kids may have. And it knows already the emergency contacts for every child. And so SignWave can take advantage of all this, pre-filling the forms, distributing to the right parents of the kids, getting approvals from the right people at the right school, including any data that we already have, and also generating boarding passes for every child. So we are going to give you a fully working version of a field trip workflow, but probably you would like to customize it in a number of different ways. So I mentioned earlier customizable forms. You can change the forms. You can tweak the language, you can add additional fields, you can take fields away, move them around, do whatever you like. You can also change the workflow, so you can define additional stages, additional forms, different approval processes, different conditions on what is considered, for example, to be high risk or not. And it's taking advantage of the responsibility framework, which you can actually set in each stage. You can say, okay, only office people can do the distribution phase, for example. All control, you can tweak that. And you can also, IT can set all of this up if they want to, so that it follows a certain procedure or policy. And finally, the boarding pass. Okay, so boarding passes are kind of cool. I'll show you one. Ooh, there's one, an example. It's a QR code on it, you'll see. You don't have to use the QR code boarding passes. You can do it manually as well. And you can create multiple check-in points during the field trip. If you have a multi-day field trip, for example, you probably want to have, a couple of check-in points every single day. But on a simple one, a single day, you might have a departure check-in, kids getting on the bus, for example. You get the middle, maybe at lunchtime, you do a quick, check-in, see if everyone's still around. We haven't lost anyone yet. And then finally, on return, we can check the kids to get on the bus and make sure that they, those kids that got on the bus in the morning are also the ones that we return with. And you can, and now having said that, there are, of course, exceptions, and we do handle the exceptions too. So parents who might pick up their kid from the ski hill, for example, we can handle that too. And we're not aware of any other product that out there that does this part of it in particular. There's a number of other things that we think were unique as well, but particularly the boarding pass concept. Let me show you. All right, and I will share now a different screen. This one here. Okay. So I'm going to log into, now I'm sure you're all going to be asking, is it shipping yet? And it is not shipping yet. So we are going to be using a demo, a development demo version today. So basically all of what I just talked to you is essentially working. We're not, happy with the polish yet, and it's not been fully regression tested, but we're a few weeks away. Okay, I'm going to log in as a teacher, okay? And Mr. Wortham, Edward Wortham, the science teacher. And he wants, okay, so you'll notice, looks pretty well like a regular Edsby screen, but there's another thing under HPSD Mesa Elementary, workflows. I'm going to open up workflows. And this is Eddie's, I call him Eddie, Eddie's view of the workflow. So let's just make a new one, okay? I'm going to hit the plus here. And I'm going to use the ski trip. So you can have different templates, okay? So I said you can create custom ones. You may have day trip ones, high-risk ones, different ways you can do it. You can create as many of these templates as you want, and the IT department can share them. And in this case, we're on a bit of a test server, so there's probably more stuff in here that you would normally see. But we're going to select this one. It's called ski trip request, but we're actually going to use it for a slightly different purpose. So I click that, and we're going to put in the workflow name. So he's the science teacher, and we are going to go to this wonderful place called the R.C. Harris Water Treatment Plant, which maybe some of you know if you're in Toronto area. It is down on the end of Queen Street. All right, I'm going to submit it, and Ed Wortham is in charge. Destination is the water treatment plant. I've never been. I would like to go. It sounds exciting. Okay, type of trip. It is a day trip. By the way, this form is completely customizable. So this is just a form we made, that's pretty representative of field trip forms. We'll say it is curricular. Oops, curricular. And it has lots of facilities. I'll show you the forms template editor at the end. It has got lots of stuff, but we probably won't dig into too much today. It's a one-day trip. Trip rationale is see where things go after you flush the toilet, which is very educational, I think. All right, estimated number of students in my class. There's probably 50 kids, and we'll need 1 to 15 ratio. We probably need at least, we'll go with 5 supervisors. They're an unruly bunch. Yes, these are okay. So whatever things you want on your form, you could say no, but it actually checks these things. I'm going to skip one just to prove that there's some kind of checking for that. Good description. Meet at school at 7 a.m. Back for 5, let's say. Okay, and then we have a signature thing. So there's 2 ways you can do signatures. You can actually type your name and, like so, and it goes in like that. Or you can draw. You can configure this actually in the forms. This is a new type of field in a form, which is a signature field. So I am Edward. So Eddie. I'm not really good at writing with the mouse, but there we go. Okay, and I confirm that this is my signature. I'm going to press start workflow, and you'll notice it's complaining because I forgot something. Is a formal safety plan? Oh, yes, of course. All right, now we're going to start the workflow, and off it goes. And there is the workflow. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I'm done now. I can monitor the progress as Edward, but really now you can see that it has automatically routed it to the principal here, and the principal of my school. If someone else used it at a different school, it would go to their principal. So you can find these sort of virtual roles in the design of it, which I can show you in a minute too. Okay, let me log out, and I will log in as Jillian Thomas. Jillian is, of course, the principal at Mesa Elementary. And you'll notice that she's got a little notification here. And when we drop that down, we can say, oh, principal review in workflows. So I'm going to click that. It takes me into the workplace. You could also go through the workflow inbox under the school there. But in this case, it's taken me right to the right place. You can see that there's, Mr. Wortham here is proposing a trip to the sewage treatment plant. How exciting. So she decides to review it. Okay, so she sees, of course, the form that Mr. Wortham filled out. She can scroll down here. All looks good to me. Me at schools. Okay, excellent instructions there. Eddie signed it. And so now it's my turn as Jillian to sign it. So I'm going to draw my signature. Very poor, I know. All right. And I could put comments. So you can also deny it. And the workflow engine, you can control what happens when you deny. In this particular case, it would go back to Mr. Wortham. Okay, we're going to submit the decision there, and you'll notice it. Okay, so a couple of things happened here. You'll notice that it went from principal review. It skipped this because this is kind of like an if statement. This said, okay, this is not a high risk. It's not a high risk trip. So a high risk might be, a ski trip might be high risk, or multi-days, etc. So there's a conditional logic. It's one of the stages, and so it doesn't need a superintendent review. And hopefully it's not risky of kids falling into the big vats or whatever they have there. All right, parent permission collection. So now, okay, I'm going to pretend to be the office head. Jillian is the principal of the school. She can behave as the office head. And I think actually this one is set up so that principals can also do the distribution. Usually it would be the office head. Anyway, I'll click distribute here. Lots of different ways you can select the audience. You can select by class or by student. We're going to do it by class because we know it is a grade 7 trip. I know you can't see the drop down. I think that's the way Teams works, but I selected a 7 there. So now I see all the grade 7 classes, and I will narrow that down to the science because this is definitely a science type thing. And we're going to check Science 7A, and we're going to check Science 7B. You'll notice those are, in fact, Mr. Wortham's classes. And then we'll preview the recipients, okay? And we can see a couple of things that are interesting here. So because this field trip has been set up to send, you'll notice, to the guardians of the students that I select in here, you'll notice that as a couple, Jason Garcia and Merle Garcia, have no guardians. So that's something you need to fix, really, because otherwise these kids won't be able to go on the field trip, okay? So that was just largely for testing purposes. And we'll have a mechanism. We've not set it up yet. In fact, 5 students have that, a mechanism to go and kind of get this list again and make it easy to make them invited and connected. You can save at this point, but we're not going to bother. We're going to directly send to the recipient. So kaboom, this goes out to Edsby mailboxes and out via email. Very similar to parent-teacher interviews, the way that works. Okay. So now we're in a new mode. We're actually still inside of parent permission collection, but we have selected the audience. So now the parents have it and they are awaiting the responses. So you can see these are all awaiting the responses. Now, no one, of course, has responded yet. Let us log out. We'll log in as Carol Fierro here. She is the mother of Aaron Fierro. So that's just going as here, so you can see that. See Fierro. Okay. And you'll notice that she's got an unread indicator. It will go into the mailbox too, and there should be a bubble on there, and it will go out via email as well. Okay, so Miss Gillian, parent permission collection. Language is going to be improved, by the way, there. And same, the language here we need a bit more of a description. Little tweaky things, but it is working. Okay, so I'm going to fill out here. I'm going to say that my dog is the emergency contact. And we're going to say a plan. Oh, so some things will be copied across here, like primary phone number. It just knows these things. And I'll show you how that's actually done, because the forms are completely generic. And we have ways of copying certain fields from different places. Okay, and she's going to send a check, and yes, yes. And now I understand the risk, blah, blah, blah. It's very risky going to the sewage treatment plant. And okay, now I selected the wrong form template here. So really you don't need to select, unless we're skiing to the water treatment plant, I suppose. Okay, no dietary restrictions. And then Carol is going to sign it. So Carol. And confirm this is my scene. By the way, it all works on mobile too. Okay, so Carol has submitted, and then let's exit here for a second. Go back in as the principal. Select that, yeah. Okay. In and out, back and forth. Okay, you'll notice actually, so Carol has submitted here, and we do not have a notification, and that is by intention, because if you had hundreds of these coming in, it would overwhelm your notification system. And it's expected at this point that someone will be checking in on it. So that's why we did that. So, okay, trip to Harris water treatment plant, and we should now see if we collapse the awaiting responses, you'll see there's actually 1 out of 70 there. We'll collapse that, and you can see that Carol here has completed that. We can view her form, blah, 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 and we can see that she signed it. All good, right? Okay, let's just go back in. Let's imagine that now that Ben Martinez comes into the office and says, I don't have an internet. Can I approve my kid to go into me? Sure, fill out this form. So the way that is going to work, you can open this up, and you'll notice that there's a print button here. This will print out the form onto paper in the office. And we're going to have a QR code. We haven't quite finished this part. There'll be a QR code on this actual form, which means that when he fills it out in the office, he can then, can take a photograph of it and scan the QR code. So we'll know that it's for Ben. And here's an image of the form, including the signature and whatnot. But in this case, we'll just fill it out. So same as before. Blah, 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 blah. And he's going to give me cash. Does anyone use cash anymore? I don't know. Would you be willing to assist? Yes. Have you been approved? Yes. I've read and blah, blah, blah. Do all that good stuff. We'll do that. And then, so in this case, not quite sure exactly the best way to do this, but what you could do is you could actually say paper on file here or something. Oops. Paper on file, something to that effect. So the signature is somewhere else attached. Okay. And let's do one more so we just have a few people going on the trip. Otherwise it gets a bit dull. And I'll be as quick as I can here. And I think that's all we need. Okay, so I'm going to collapse that, and now we've got 3 kids. Okay, so let's imagine now that the deadline passes, and the school administration can turn off the accepting of responses. So let's do that. Now they've not all come in, so it is warning me here because only 3 of 70 have come in. I'll close this stage. Okay, and you can see here there's a little thing. It has moved on now to trip check-ins. This is the phase we're at. The check-in progress is shown here. Okay, so the way this works, and I'll quickly do this. I'm going to say new check-in. So this might be a week before still. We might propose that we will have did I say 8 a.m. or 7 a.m.? I can't remember. AM bus boarding, we'll call it that. Okay, we'll create the check-in for that, and we'll do another one. We'll call it lunch check-in. Having lunch at the sewage treatment plant, that doesn't sound that appetizing, does it? But it's educational. All right. Okay, and then one more. So this is the PM bus boarding. Great, that check-in, and we'll close that. Okay, so now we've got a little chart here, and we can search students here, and I'll show you that in a second when we do a few of the boarding. Okay, so let's imagine now it is the day of. It is 7 o'clock in the morning, and the kids start to arrive. The bus is going to leave at, I don't know, whenever, 8 o'clock. I'm going to click here. So you can have multiple bus captains. There may be 3 buses, let's say, or 2 buses. And they can all be running the app. So this will be most likely running on a phone at this point. I'm going to show you on the desktop here, but it will work probably better on the phone because of the camera and whatnot. Okay, so first of all, we need to activate this one. Only one check-in is allowed to be activated at any one time. I'll activate it. Okay, check-in is opened here. And then basically I get to the kids kind of get on the bus. So I see Aaron there. It's interesting. Okay. I see Aaron. I'm going to check him off. Actually, no, I won't. I'll do it by QR code. Why not? Why not be more fun? So I'm going to hit the QR code scan button, and that switches to camera mode. And I am going to try and line this up with my camera, which is not as easy as you might think. Hold it in the right place. There we go. There was a beep there. I don't think you probably heard the beep, but it was a high-pitched beep, just like the checkout when you're checking your groceries out. Okay, so you can see that, Aaron's been checked in. And let's say Antonio walks on. I'm just going to do him manually. And you can also click here and Zach Ledema, and you can say he'll be leaving early. And we're going to check him in too. So you can add a little note to these. You see there's a little note there. Okay, good. Everyone's on the bus. Excellent. We'll close the check-ins. Okay, and you can see that there's check marks for the kids who are all coming on the bus, or all got on the bus, and then there's this one here which I hover. Now I don't think you probably see this, but it says leaving early as I hover there. Okay, all right. So we drive to the sewage treatment plant. We get a wonderful tour by the plant manager there, and then it's time for lunch. So we click on lunch check-in, and as you can imagine, it's just the same. So we need to activate, and we need to scan the QR code, and we can go like so. I only have one QR code, so one printed out. There we go. Beep again. Okay, out of that, and we're going to just check those two off. Actually, let's leave him not. Let's say we've lost him. Oh, it does warn me, but we're going to do it anyway. Maybe we know he fell in the vat. Oh, poor old Antonio has been washed off in the cleanup in the shower area. Okay, and then in the evening, of course, we can do the same thing. I'm just going to do this for. Oh, I have to activate. Check these strings off, and we will close the check-in. And the other thing is that you can add these at any time. So I could add another one now, which is, return to parent. All right. Create that. And you could activate that and do the same thing, Let's leave it open. Right. So you can close it and open it, and you can actually reactivate things, so it doesn't make sense. You can tweak things too if there were mistakes made and add notes and a few things. Now, the office can monitor this. So while this is happening, they're obviously out at the sewage treatment plant, but the office can see what's going on. And, the parent could even call, did Antonio get on the bus? Well, yes, he did, right? But if there were several hundred in the list here, you might want to type in, Zach, for example, because he's a Z. So we'll put Zach in here, and it can filter it down. So we can see that, yes, Zach got on the bus. It says he's leaving earlier, a lunch check-in, bus boarding. Maybe he was picked up, so he wasn't returned to parent, whatever. Maybe that's the story. Okay, so that's kind of the whole process from beginning to end. I'll quickly show you how you create one of these things.
Johnny,
log out. Yes.
Before you go on, there's a question that came up that I wasn't able to answer. It has to do with attendance. Is this synced at all with the attendance taking in the system, so that if someone was absent for the day, that would be represented in the forms?
Not yet. It's independent of the attendance system, but we are aware of how the two might be integrated. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I'm going to log in as Mr. Beasley, and Mr. Beasley is the district IT administrator guy. He's the techie guy at the board office. Okay, so we'll go in there. Just get rid of that. And so he is not actually a member of any school, right? So he's not going to see the school. He's not going to see even the workflow inbox for that school unless he does jump through a few hoops. But what he does have is, you'll notice he has a thing called workflow templates there. In fact, before I go there, though, I'll show you the form stuff because it's in a slightly different place. We'll probably rejig this a bit, but I'll just show you. We'll go through the scary manage page, and we'll go to Zoom here, and we'll go to forms, and you can see these are the forms that I've just been using in the system. And now the one that's most relevant. So actually, I will show you actually the collect signature form here. So this is a form. This is the forms editor. You can create fields here. You can add them up. Now, this is a very small little field. This is the signature form. So if you remember, I had a signature, and then underneath it was a place to type your name and comments. You could add extra things in here. So when you do that approval stage as the principal, you could add a few extra things or tweak it. So it's not just a fixed field. You can actually customize virtually everything in the system. Okay. So let's go into here, which is the ski check form. This is the one we used. And you can see basically there's a way to name the thing. But the fields on the form here, so this is, when you click on here, you get the right-hand side changes. This is a multi-line text field. There's the student name field, the parent name field, etc. Okay, you can specify things, different alignments, and the way it looks and whatnot. This is a fairly big form. You can specify whether things fit on, 2 to a row, 3 to a row, whatever. So you can kind of format the thing. You can also get to, set some basic permissions on this. Okay, so let's go back to the back here, because that's forms. And you make new forms. You can also create lists of things if you're going to, form is going to share a set of lists. And it actually came up that someone asked the question recently, can you fix the set of approved destinations? And this would be a great example of a nice use for the tables in. So you can create a new table, you can import a CSV file, and that might be a spreadsheet full of approved field trip destinations. And you could make one of these to be the approved field trip approval form, approved approval. I don't know. And so that's another thing you can do. And so there's quite a bit of sophistication around that. And one other thing is you do have conditional logic on fields as well. So you can hide and show sections of forms. You know, if this is checked or if it's high risk, go and give me the details. You can do all that kind of fancy stuff too. Anyway, let's go into workflow templates. Workflow templates basically what is a workflow? A workflow is a sequence of steps, and it may involve multiple forms. Okay, and in fact, this field trip permissions form workflow is a multi-form workflow. Let's go in there. Let's look at ski trip, and here's the stages. Now, basically, this is the flow through the system of the way the workflows work. There's a submission, a trip proposal. There is a review by the principal. There's a check whether it's high risk. There's a superintendent review. There's a parent permission collection, and there's a check-in phase as well. And you can view this as a flow chart if you so wish, and if you want to move these things around, you can do that too. There's kind of two ways to do it. This is a bit more for a simple one like this. It's pretty well straight down, but in more complex workflows, then that will be a useful facility. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go through each stage. What you can do, you can control who acts on this stage, and that should actually have this checked. I think it's implied in the first one, but you can specify certain roles. I'm not going to save this, so I can mangle it. You can specify virtually through the responsibility framework who gets to do this particular stage. You can also name specific users and what happens next. Now, this is a forms filling one. You can see trip proposal. I got a list of trips there, and I can preview this particular form. There it is. Okay. I can go to principal review. Again, the form there is collect signatures, which we already saw, and there it is. Beautiful. And who should do this? Well, the principal should do it, right? Because it's the principal review stage. There's a high-risk check. You can see here there's a dependent on the number of days. If the number of days equals 1, then we are going to go to superintendent. Sorry, we're going to go here, parent permission collection. Otherwise, we go to this this review, which is here, which looks just the same. Now, actually, we've cheated. It's not the superintendent review. It's actually district IT review, but we should have checked that one. All right. Then parent permission collection done by the principal. Again, probably would be the office head as well, but again, configurable. And this is where the data binding works between forms. Okay, so there's multiple forms at play here. And when a form is created, you can bind certain things into the what we call the fanned out. So in this case, you're going to take one form, which is a proposal, and you're going to send out hundreds of parent forms. And on those parent forms, we're going to copy certain things. So in this case, we're copying the description. Okay, we're copying a student name, but we're not copying it from the form. We're copying it from the student record. You can see that says student record there. And then the parent name and phone number are recipients that have been selected through that mechanism. So there's you can create these bindings to basically copy things from different places, which gives you lots of flexibility. And finally, at the check-in phase, who can do a check-in? Well, you can configure it this way. I think in a future version 2.0 or 1.1, we'll probably lock this down a bit more and be able to specify things like bus captains, but that's coming. Okay. And that's it. And so, what happens, I think there's actually, you can control here a few things, but details. You get the idea. And then the way you add stage is click add stage at the bottom, which I'm not going to do, but these are currently the 5 stage types, although we have quite a few more stage types planned. Things like putting people in groups, sending messages, putting tags onto students, putting things on the panorama. Oh, there's all kinds of things, because we do foresee that there are other use cases, possibly IEP workflows, other kind of things, surveying, etc. Okay, I think I am going to exit this before I break my demo here. Okay.
Another question, Johnny.
Yes, fire away.
Yeah, so for the approval process, we've been showing within a school, an admin in the school providing the approval. What if we have someone at the district level, an administrator that's overseeing a number of schools? They still have the same workflow associated with them, so they could have like 6 schools that are all rolling up to an administrator at the district to approve any one of those schools.
Correct. Yes,
Good.
and that's actually in this one here. You'll see that the superintendent review is that one. So now I've got it configured strangely, but you could specify either superintendent like this, that would do it generically, or you could specify it, you know, by going specific users. You could actually type in people's names here. We would try and do it in the virtual way in case people, you know, change positions within the board, so you don't have to keep editing the workflow. But yeah, we do have that. And in that case, so because of that, actually, you'll notice that if I go back here, go back to the main form, if I go back to the home screen here, he's an IT person. He's not a school person, right? So he does not have a workflow inbox here, but he will still get things through notifications. In fact, there probably is one here. Yes, so here's a good example, Miss Gillian Thomas. That's the superintendent review. Let's click it. I have no idea. This is during testing. And I think we've deleted it. We've done it. We cleaned up a lot of junk out of there. So whereas I'll go back in as Gillian Thomas, just because I think she is probably the center of this universe. And you'll notice that under Mesa Elementary, she has workflows. If she was part of 2 schools, a VP at say 2 schools, you'd see 2 workflow inboxes, right? I think was there another question there?
Yeah. Can forms be sent to staff members, like a text sign off at the start of the year being sent to all staff division wide instead of just the involving parent sign off?
Yes, so you can do that at the, I guess I should have stayed on the other screen. Let's go back. You can configure that. I believe you can. My mouse is acting up because it's a demo.
And similarly, Johnny, code of conduct opt-ins, for instance, by students.
Yes. Yeah, yes. So in my example here, the one that we are laser focused on, it's of course sending to the guardians of the parent of the kid selected, but you can figure that. I believe it's done in here. So you have to read the dialogue carefully here. And I think, okay, here. Okay, here. So audience selection, you can choose whether you want to do it by classes, by groups, or individual students. Okay, and you get to distribute to the guardians or the students of the teachers of those. So obviously, students will be one-to-one. Whatever students you pick would get the thing in their inbox. Teachers will be teachers of the selected students, and of course, the one we just demonstrated is the guardians case.
Sounds like additional staff roles might be needed, though. Not everyone's a teacher.
Well, it would be relative. If you've picked students, then you would need to know what the office administrator of the, I'm not sure what that would be. Normally, those are the 3 that we care about, right? The main roles.
Yeah, Sandra's question was specifically about text sign off at the start of the year being sent to all staff. That wouldn't apply to just teachers, I imagine.
Yes, we can do that. I think there's a way to do that. Right. Might not be able to do it right now.
There's another question that's come in too for attaching files. So additional information, maybe we want travel documents, things like that that get attached to the form. Okay.
Yeah, yes. So I think currently there's a limitation. There's only one attachment field. You can put multiple attachments on. There's only one field on the form. When you create the form, you create that's a field type is of form. Having said that, I think we also have plans to put in things like, you know, policy documents and things as part of the workflow in here. We've not done that yet.
As we're waiting for additional questions, a reminder to you, if you're joining us on the live version of this webinar, you are welcome to ask questions through the chat or the Q&A button. Here's one that I've prepared. Johnny, you might want to proactively address this, that everybody in the audience here today and those watching the recording are going to be existing Edsby customers. When will SignWave be available to existing Edsby customers?
Well, absolutely. We'll be shipping it before the summer. We probably in about a month we hope to be able to get pilots going, you know, There's a lot of new stuff here. We want to make sure that it's rock solid before we actually, deploy it in production fully. But it's before the summer. We should be ready to go. It's going really well. I mean, you can see the demo here. It's just it's looking pretty solid at the moment. What is the estimated cost for this product? That's a great question. So it is an extra cost option, first of all, but I believe we have not finalized the actual price yet. I think there may be some flexibility around pricing and depending on a few things. So to be determined.
How does somebody get in the loop on the answer to that question? Is to engage with us through the waiting list form on the website. If you missed the beginning part of the conversation here, there's a web page on the Edsby public website under the product section for SignWave, where you can press the gold button to enter yourself into the waiting list for SignWave.
Any more questions?
Well, here's something, Johnny, while we're waiting. If a school district isn't an existing Edsby customer and they already use something like Canvas, for instance, would they be able to still take advantage of SignWave?
So we are planning on initially we're going to ship this as an add-on and make sure that it's rock solid. But yes, absolutely, we see this being a standalone product.
There is a question, and I think it's part of a process question that you might want to show rather than just answering. It says, who can view the responses? And those are coming back to the person that initiated the request. But how do you send reminders to those that do not respond yet?
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
Great question, because I have a good answer.
It's the only reason it's a good question.
No, it is a great question. So if you are in, I don't know if I have one in the right phase. These are all in the check-in phase. Okay, waiting response is perfect. So let's say the ski trip to Mount Brimacombe, which some of you probably know where that is. So you can see there's a bunch here in a waiting response phase, and you'll notice that there's I call it the nag button, but we more politely call it the remind button. So I'm going to click the remind button and kaboom, send a reminder to 74 pending recipients, boom. So that's it. You just press that button and it fires off an email and a message to everyone on the wait list, or the waiting response list.
Built into this, we also have the capacity to send a paper. If some people don't log into this, then you can also do that as well. So
I'll show you that too. Submit. If I click submit form here, you notice there's a little print button up on top there, which I'm not sure if you'll see this. Can you see that dialog? I don't know.
Yes,
you can. Okay. Well, there's the printable version of it. And we are going to put a QR code on here. And the reason for that is it makes it easier for the office staff then to scan it if they have a little document camera hooked up to their machine there, as I know many offices do. Then we can use that QR code to quickly jump to the right kid, because there might be hundreds of kids involved there. And that also lets them take a photograph of the form, because if you've got a handwritten form, you're basically good to go. That's, by the way, what the scan is there. If you see that scan button there, if I click that, it goes into a QR code mode. This is the QR code, not for the boarding pass, though. This is to scan the printed permission form that's been filled out.
We get some questions like, can the responses be exported?
I just saw that one, and the answer is yes, but not yet. But we'll have that working for sure. Yeah.
What about annual archive?
Yes. Yeah. It will be annual, but we rarely delete anything in Edsby. So yes, things might disappear just to clean things up. But if you need to go back and check on something for some reason, then we would have record of that.
And Johnny, these go on the student panorama as well, right?
Not currently.
Oh, okay.
Not currently. We could. That was a workflow step I would like to add.
Oh.
But I don't think we need that for minimum viable product for missions. You do it through here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for more questions to queue up, AI is on everyone's minds right now. What role is there for AI with SignWave?
So we have a bit of philosophy on AI that use AI as a tool to save busy work and to reduce errors and things like that. And so I think that's the focus here is on that kind of thing, checking that things are done safely. But we also see that if you fill out a paper form and you scan it with the document camera, we would love to fill out the form by looking at that image and converting the fields across. So that's one of the things we'd like to try. Not tried it yet. It won't be in the initial offering, but things like that are the kind of things we're looking for.
Okay, so, but to be clear, there's no AI anywhere in what we've looked at so
There's
far.
no AI in this. This is straightforward forms, and yeah, it's all good, solid stuff.
More questions coming in. John, are you able to see these, or do you want us to?
I am seeing them, but I'm going to let you read them because
Okay.
sometimes I start answering one, then you have another one. So you go ahead and ask.
Well, Sandra asks, what can be done for a registration form? Since parents aren't already linked to a school, how could that be done?
So parents that aren't currently invited or don't have an account yet will be encouraged to get one. It's very similar. We do a similar thing in parent-teacher interviews and whatnot, but basically we would encourage you to get one. But if you don't want to for some reason, then you'd be invited to come to the office. Say, so when we send the email out to all the recipients, if you don't want to sign up for an Edsby account, you could come into the office and do it by paper.
I think she means K registrations, like people that are not part of the school community. So they wouldn't be able to. I was mentioned. I don't think they can.
Oh, I see. Using this as a kindergarten registration system. That's a great idea, and we have a kindergarten registration system, and I think this eventually would supersede that. The way that works is that generally there's a well-known web URL that initiates the workflow, and we would do exactly the same thing here. And so part of that process will be creating your account. And once your account is created, we can then talk to you. So yeah, I don't know how many people are aware of the kindergarten registration system that we do have, but basically it's identical to that. And it's different than this because in this case, we're sending messages out to a known audience. In kindergarten registration, it could be anyone, clicking in a room.
There was a request for clarification about fields being set to appear depending on what boxes a parent may have checked. Clearly, there's dependency between fields, as you mentioned. Do you want to amplify that a bit more?
Sure, I think I can maybe show. Well, actually, rather than me showing, because it'll take me a second. Yes, you can put conditional logic on fields within the form system. So in that forms builder I showed you there, one of the things you can do is you can say, based upon other fields in this form, you can do things like turn on and off sections, or you can set values into other fields on the form. So that's in the form system, just within that form system itself. Additionally, there is logic in the workflow engine to do conditions as well, which is kind of more macro kind of branching within the workflow. Because it might be that, let's say you're doing, you might do a workflow which branches and requires multiple departments to fill out independent forms, which come apart as separate forms and come back together, and there's an approval and there's if statements and stuff. So there's some pretty sophisticated stuff that we could do. We haven't fully tested that because we're focused on the field trip end of things.
Another question. Pretty sure you showed on screen that one could select an Edsby group as a form sort of destination or a basis for creating a form to target a group. But the specific question was, how does teachers pick students from outside their class? If they're addressing a form to a specific audience, does it have to be a class or a group?
Yeah, I believe that works. I have not, I'll be honest, I haven't tried it, but it is, so choosing the audience, you can select whether it's individual students. Actually, so what we can do, I don't know if I have one in progress here. Awaiting responses. Well, I'll just talk about it. When the audience picker, actually, let me go out here. I'll show you. It's easier to show you. Go back in here as Beasley. Go into workflow templates. I'll go back to here, and we're going to go into the here, which is the distribution. So when you scroll down here, there's the data binding. You'll see here. So runtime selection, we can choose whether or not we choose students by classes, by groups, or by individual students. So certainly individual students will do, you can pick anyone, basically. In the groups case, this will be useful for monitor groups. So if you had like I don't know, special ed class and you want to do a special ed field trip, there may or may not be a class, but you've got a monitor group for that, then you could select that by that special ed group. Or just select the individual ones. This one's not been implemented yet, which is what we call prior stage, and this allows you perhaps Mr. Wortham at the beginning of the thing to select the audience before the principal approves it. We haven't done that yet, but we will work on that too.
We had a question about future potential for writing student data from SignWave back to the SIS. Not currently part of the spec, but something that we're considering on the roadmap.
That's a good idea. Yeah, well, I think we got a couple of people on the call making notes here of some of these good ideas. Sure, sounds great to me.
Lori asks if there's going to be a way to bulk export forms into PDF files. For instance, if eCUMs come to Saskatchewan, can forms be uploaded into the eCUM?
Say that last word again? I didn't follow that.
E-cumulatives coming to Saskatchewan.
Not sure what that is. So bulk export of the forms data, yes, we are going to do that. I don't think it will be will it be in PDF form? That's a good question. I don't know if it will be in PDF form or we'll just export the actual raw data as a giant CSV. That's probably more likely.
Perhaps Lori can tell us which is most useful for her application.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that would be helpful to know details. By the way, you could also, I'm sure you're all familiar with our idea management system, the Edsby idea system, and I welcome you to add. There is actually a topic, I believe, on SignWave or on the on field trip permissions. Feel free to add ideas to that.
In your instance, Johnny, can you show gesture on screen to how to get to that?
Sure. I don't know.
Just as a reminder to people where it lives.
I don't know if it's hooked up here. Is it? No, but it's okay. I will show you here. And let's go.
Just as a reminder for users who've not used this system yet.
So if you go up to the question mark here and you say suggest a new feature, I click that and you agree to it. So there's a bit of a sure, since I'm a completely fake person. And anyway, so you can jump out here. You can either just put your idea in here. You can pick, in fact, SignWave is, look there, it's the #1 topic at the moment. You can also jump off to ideas. This actually searches. So if you say export, and it's going to actually it's going to search for stuff in here. So that enables you to find. So we don't create duplicates as much as possible. We'll fix them if you do. And you can also click ideas here and jump out into the full idea management interface, and you can look what's going on, see who has voted for what. Anyway, that's all. So that is all off the question mark. Get rid of that.
John and Karen, we find ourselves in the unusual position of having more questions than we have time for, but out of respect for the fact that we've got a lot of people wanting to get back to their jobs, I want to squeeze in one last real quick one, which is, can you provide visibility by role or user for workflow steps that don't require their approval?
Say that again.
The question is, can you provide visibility by role or user for workflow steps that don't require their approval? Perhaps insight into the workflow, even if you're not an approver?
So you can configure who gets to view any of the steps. The workflow inbox will be viewable by staff of the school, generally speaking. And usually that's going to be I think we see that the office administrator will be the kind of the normal user of the system, but also those people proposing things will see their own workflows. I think, yes, I'm actually not totally sure of the answer, to be honest. I'm not actually quite totally sure of the question either. But basically, it's on a need-to-know basis. You will see if you ever need to know something. So for example, if you're a bus captain for the check-ins, then you need to be able to see that workflow so you can do the check-in, right? So, but there's potentially some sensitive information which you may not want to share with everyone.
We could learn more from Elizabeth after the fact when we circle
Sure.
back, because she is like a handful of other people that have questions that haven't been fully answered in this conversation today, but we are anxious to answer them for you. So let us, in fact, pledge to get back to everybody who hasn't had a chance to get their question answered in the coming days. But for now, we want to thank you for joining us for this special session, for your feedback. Glad to have you aboard and to count you as part of the Edsby family, everyone. We look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.